Thank you for listening to Allendale's Acreage Survey results. This is the results of our 23rd annual Acreage Survey. This, of course, is a producer-driven survey here, covering the period from February 27th through March 9th. We had a total of 26 state participation and had valid surveys enough to compute acreage covering 83% of all planted acres here. So certainly a very valid number and certainly a long history of doing the survey itself here. Before we get into the results, I must also give a thank you here to two other people as well who did help out with the survey, Greg McBride as well as Jeremy Shelton here. Now getting right into the numbers there, the results of our 2012 acreage survey as far as corn plantings, we see producers told us 95.012 million acres would be planted. That would be an increase of 3.1 million acres over last year. And of course, as you can see here by the comparison against USDA's Ag Forum numbers, this does imply higher acres than what USDA was looking for just at their recent Ag Forum conference. For soybean, we do suggest, or producers did tell us, that they would be lowering soybean acres by roughly about 500,000 acres to 74.495 million acres. And for wheat, they actually told us that they will not be planting as much wheat as some people had been expecting. USDA included 56.609 million acres for total wheat plantings. And that's an increase of 2.2 million acres. Now getting to the coverage, this is a map showing, computed by USDA, showing where corn is grown here in the U.S. Of course, the light shaded are the minor producing areas, and the dark shaded areas are where the heavy concentration of corn plantings. Now, as a whole, producers did tell us that generally across the whole corn belt, they would be increasing acreage here as far as corn. But more specifically, we saw a very heavy agreement from producers located in these areas here. Certainly as far as the southern corn belt, where you would be seeing all these acres piled on here due to early plantings, due to these warm weather issues here, producers told us they were very willing to plant corn. In fact, it was surprising at how aggressive that they told us they would be on these surveys. Of course, the other area located in the northwest corn belt certainly has to be the focus has to be on eastern North Dakota. Certainly, producers were very adamant about sharp increases for corn acreage there as well. Now, some areas did have some declines, and actually there were a few, and actually in terms of coverage across the entire corn belt, the numbers are not as large as what these areas would appear. Central Illinois noted they would lightly switch out of corn here. In terms of other areas to note here, eastern Nebraska, eastern South Dakota, pretty much all those areas along the river also noted they would probably be reducing corn, and those producers in those areas who maybe have those off and on rainfall issues here told us that they would stay with their general rotation and move back slightly into beans possibly here. Of course, Michigan also noted up in here suggested they would be lowering their corn plantings. Now, we will give you half of our balance sheet here with this webinar, and in terms of total production and through the supply area here, one thing we can point out is for planted acres, this is located on the top line. As you can tell, our 95 number located there. We are using a different yield number than USDA. USDA is using 164.0. Our trend yield that we are using is 161.4, and that is a trend yield that is not adjusted by any personal feelings we may have. In terms of total production, this gives us a 14.1 billion bushel estimate here as far as production. This is assuming the acres get planted, and we get a trend yield here. And of course, that is sharply higher than last year's 12.4. For total supply, this is an increase up to 14.9 billion bushels compared to last year's 13.5. Now, for you guys who are subscribers to Allendale's research products, we will be releasing our full balance sheet forecast, including demand and also showing ending stocks. That will be posted on our research products. For soybean areas, of course, as this map shows, they generally planted in the same areas as corn. We will point out, of course, that producers across most of the areas, in fact, as they would be switching over to corn, we did have actually a very widespread coverage of respondents suggesting that they would be slightly lowering their soybean plantings here. So there's not any one main area which really stood out. If you want to twist our arm, we can point out maybe as a whole, maybe these southern areas as far as the southern corn belt noted that they would be switching lightly out of soybeans as they favor those corn plantings. Now this balance sheet as far as soybeans, once you throw in the yield numbers that we have here, and we are using something very similar to USDA as far as our yield estimate, this gives us production of 3.2 billion bushels. And this is moderately higher than last year's 3.1 billion bushels. Total supply hitting 3.5, very close to USDA's number compared to last year's 3.3 billion bushels. Now for wheat, we won't go over the maps as far as production of spring wheat or winter wheat, but we will just simply note as far as the numbers laid out here for supply that we look for production right now 2.1 billion bushels. This is just a little bit under what USDA had posted at their Ag Forum, and it is higher than last year's 2.0. In terms of total supply, it looks to be very close, just slightly higher than last year's pretty much 3.0 number. We have a slightly higher number listed here for 2012. But once again, here's the numbers posted as far as the results. We certainly thank all of the producers who helped us out with the survey. Without a very active participation from our clients and respondents, we could not do an acreage survey this in-depth and with this much coverage widespread throughout the nation. For you guys who are brand new to Allendale, as far as viewing our products, feel free to take a look at our website, and that is www.allendale, that's ALLENDALE-INC.com. You can also get a hold of us by phone, which is 1-800-262-7538.